My mom wants me to go on a blind date with a divorced man 10 years older than me. I refuse and ask her why she doesn't send my sister instead. She slaps me across the face and says, "How dare you compare yourself to your sister? She's destined to marry the Sinclair family heir." The Sinclair family heir, Colin Sinclair, is the undisputed prince of the capital's high society. My sister has been in love with him for 5 years. But what they don't know is that Colin Sinclair, the young master my sister has been pining for, is actually my online boyfriend. At this very moment, he's sending me message after message, begging pitifully, "Babe, please don't break up with me?" Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. I was crouched in the corner of the kitchen, eating a pot noodle, when my mom brought up the subject of a blind date. I've seen a photo of the gentleman. He's a bit on the short side, but his features are quite pleasant. Seems like a decent, honest chap. He's divorced, but thankfully has no children. The key thing is, his family is well off. They own a block of flats. The rent alone brings in hundreds of thousands a month. She leaned against the kitchen door frame, wrinkling her nose as if the smell of the pot noodle offended her, and gave me a disapproving look. "Are you even listening to me?" "Mom, I'm still at university," I reminded her, finishing the last sip of broth and tossing the pot into the bin. I turned to face her. "He's a whole decade older than me." My mom suddenly perked up. "What's wrong with 10 years? An older man knows how to treat a woman right. Instead of waiting until you graduate and getting fooled by some good-for-nothing youngster, you'd be better off listening to me and getting to know him properly. Next year, when you're of legal age to marry, you can go and get the marriage certificate. Men with such good prospects are hard to come by these days, even if you searched high and low. The fact that he's interested in you is a stroke of luck." I let out a cold laugh and glanced at my sister, who was lounging on the sofa in the living room, fiddling with her new manicure. "If he's such a catch, why don't you set him up with Victoria instead?" As soon as the words left my mouth, my mom's eyes widened in shock. She stormed over in 2 quick strides and slapped me hard across the face. My cheek stung fiercely as my mom glared at me with hatred. "Who do you think you are? How dare you compare yourself to your sister? My name is Eunice Lawrence." Eunice, as in useless. My mom always said my birth was a mistake. She hadn't planned on having a second child, but I was conceived due to a contraceptive failure. Compared to her first pregnancy, my mom suffered terribly while carrying me. Morning sickness, weight gain, and stretch marks destroyed her once beautiful appearance. Even worse, in her 8th month of pregnancy with me, my mom caught my dad red-handed with his female secretary. She caused a scene, but the shock sent her into premature labor. Shortly after I was born, that secretary also fell pregnant, reportedly with a boy. From then on, my dad rarely came home. My mom cried enraged, but she refused to divorce him. As time passed, she began to vent all her resentment and bitterness on me. "You're nothing but a curse. A troublemaker. You've ruined this family. I should never have given birth to you." For as long as I can remember, my mom would always scream these things at me, pointing her finger in my face. She'd go out playing bingo during the day, come home and beat me at night, then turn around and speak softly to my sister. Even though I've been heartbroken and devastated countless times over the years, I've become numb to it all now. So when my mom's palm struck my face, I was only worried about whether the swelling would affect my part-time job tonight. "Why don't you look in a mirror? What part of you could possibly compare to your sister?" My mom was still nattering on. I pretended not to hear, turning to take an ice pack from the fridge and placing it on my cheek to reduce the swelling. Victoria, my sister, sidled up to watch the show. "Mom, no matter what you say, it won't make a difference. When has she ever listened to you? Don't bother with her, you'll only upset yourself." Her eyes darted slyly as she continued in a mocking tone. "Though, I wonder if the reason she's so against blind dates is because she already has a boyfriend? After all, her phone's been buzzing nonstop these past couple of days. Someone must be messaging her." No sooner had Victoria finished speaking than Mum flew into another rage. "Oh, that's rich. You turn down all the good matches I find for you. But you're happy to throw yourself at some loser, are you? Who is he? Is he from your university? Mom roared, lunging to grab my phone, which I deftly avoided. Enough! I tossed the ice pack into the sink with a resounding clang. The air fell silent for a moment. I took a deep breath. If there's nothing else, I need to go to my part-time job. Mom snorted coldly. Who knows if you're really going to work or off to fool around with some boy? Oh, leave her be, Mum. She'll learn her lesson when some scoundrel takes advantage of her. Victoria wheedled, swaying Mum's arm playfully. Didn't you promise to take me shopping for a new dress? I can't be late for Colin's birthday party tonight. Mum's expression softened, a look of pride crossing her face. Did you hear that? What right do you have to compare yourself to your sister? She's going to marry the Sinclair heir. I froze. Colin Sinclair, the veritable prince of the capital's elite. Victoria had been in love with him for 5 years. But what they didn't know was, Colin had been my online boyfriend. 3 days ago, I broke up with him. Staring at the 99 plus unread messages highlighted in red on my phone, I didn't even dare to open them. Ever since I sent those 3 words, let's break up, Colin's messages hadn't stopped. The chat history was filled with his questions. Break up? Why? Just because I want to meet you? You don't want to see me? Is online dating just a game to you? Are you playing with me? Say something. Following that were a series of automatically declined voice and video calls. Interspersed were several large 5-figure bank transfers. Colin's tone was shocked and angry. Seeing that I hadn't replied for a long time, he gradually began to compromise. Fine. If you don't want to meet, we won't. Whatever you say. Don't ignore me. Towards the end, there was even a hint of humble pleading. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have gotten angry. Babe. Can we please not break up? My online romance with Colin began with a misunderstanding. 4 months ago, I found a part-time tutoring job near my school. To facilitate communication about the teaching progress, I took the initiative to add the student's parent on WhatsApp. After introducing myself, I received only a question mark in response. I didn't think much of it and continued to report the child's learning progress to him daily. He would either not reply or just send a brief okay. At first, I assumed this parent was too busy with work to chat with me. It wasn't until a week later, when the actual parent of the student contacted me, that I realized I had added the wrong person. If it wasn't his child, why on earth was he responding okay? And why didn't he clarify the situation? But then I thought, it was my mistake after all, so I didn't make a fuss about it. However, 2 days later, he unexpectedly reached out to me, asking why I had stopped sending updates. Seriously? Did he think I was clocking in for work? I ignored him, but that only seemed to pique his interest. He kept asking questions relentlessly. It was as if he had gone mad. The turning point came on a late night. He suddenly messaged me, asking if I played games. I deflected. Does Gamoka count? It does. I boldly stated, £100 per hour for companionship. I thought he'd mock me and then block and delete me. Instead, the next second, I received a transfer notification. The amount, £10,000. His tone was cool and cocky. Let's begin. The Gamoka games continued for over 2 weeks. In the quiet of the night, we played childish games and had silly conversations. From initial indifference to eventual anticipation. It was as if I had finally found a glimmer of joy in this barren, desolate life. So when he later suggested we start an online relationship, I agreed without much hesitation. Perhaps out of boredom. Perhaps out of curiosity. Or perhaps because, with this stranger, I felt a sense of companionship. I thought we were just playing around. But he took it seriously, sending messages and voice notes non-stop. Waking me up in the morning, and lulling me to sleep at night. He was even a bit clingy. Until he said he wanted to meet me. I thought about it for a moment, just about to agree. Then I heard someone on the other end of the phone call him. Colin. My heart instantly sank. If I remembered correctly, the capital socialite my sister had been in love with for 5 years was also named Colin. Clinging to a glimmer of hope that it might be a coincidence, I asked, "Could I see a photo of you first?" Colin's laugh was low and deep, his slightly magnetic voice a bit enticing. "Afraid I might be a troll?" As he spoke, he sent over a photo. The pose was casual, as if just taken. I stared at the photo, nearly dropping my mobile. The face on the screen was identical to the one my sister had used as her phone wallpaper for 5 years. On the 100th day of our online relationship, I told Colin I wanted to break up. He didn't agree. My mind was in chaos. I recalled my mother's harsh words. And Victoria's haughty, disdainful expression when she looked at me. She said she would be attending Colin's birthday party tonight. An inexplicable irritation welled up inside me. I opened our chat window, determined to end things with him once and for all. "Stop messaging me. I was just playing with you. Let's delete each other." A voice call instantly popped up. With trembling hands, I declined it. Just before I hit delete contact, I saw Colin's last few messages. "Fine. Very well." I could almost imagine his gritted teeth as he typed. "You'd better hope I don't catch you. Baby." I took a deep breath and closed my phone, my face expressionless. It didn't matter. After all, I would never have anything to do with him again in this lifetime. I work part-time at an exclusive private club called SK. This members-only establishment caters to the wealthy and influential. The hourly rate is triple what you'd earn elsewhere. And on good days, generous tips from satisfied patrons can be quite substantial. Today, I'm assigned to the VIP suite on the top floor. The guests have requested that the cake be brought in precisely at midnight. The atmosphere inside is electric with excitement. I stand by the door, eyes fixed on my watch as I count down the seconds. 3, 2, 1. As I push open the door, my gaze immediately falls upon Colin. Seated at the center of the gathering. Party poppers explode overhead, and cheers erupt in waves of increasing intensity. I freeze in place, fighting the overwhelming urge to turn and flee. Colin lounged lazily on the leather sofa. Faced with the cheers and well-wishes of his adoring fans. He merely raised an eyebrow and waved his hand dismissively, indicating he'd heard them. He seemed to be in a foul mood, frowning as he stared at his mobile phone. His handsome features etched with a sharp intensity. As the cheers gradually died down, someone ventured to ask, "Why so glum today, Col? You don't get it, do you?" A teasing voice chimed in. "He's been dumped." "No way." Did that online girlfriend of his really give him the boot? With the call's charm? Impossible. The young gentlemen bantered back and forth. Their expressions full of playful mockery for their friend. Colin's aura darkened considerably. He shot them a withering glance, and they all promptly shut their mouths. He turned off his phone and stood up, making as if to leave. "Have fun, put it on my tab," he said curtly. "Where are you off to?" Colin's voice was ice cold. "To catch someone." My heart skipped a beat as I held my breath, standing in the shadows. "At least blow out the candles before you go. It's not every day we celebrate your birthday." His mate pushed him back onto the sofa while beckoning me over. "Waiter, light the candles." I kept my head down as I placed the candles on the cake and took out a lighter. My fingers trembled uncontrollably, and it took several attempts to get a flame. My heart pounding, I swallowed hard and instinctively muttered, "Sorry." In the next moment, I distinctly felt a piercing gaze fall upon me. I didn't dare imagine who that gaze belonged to, repeatedly reassuring myself that he'd never seen me before. There was no way he could recognize me just by my voice. The candles finally lit, I turned to make a hasty retreat. But then I heard that familiar voice, cold and clear, behind me. "Stop right there." Colin's tone was as deep and captivating as ever. "You. Turn around." The private room fell into an eerie silence. Confusion, curiosity, and shock were etched on everyone's faces. Their gazes fixed unwaveringly on me. I turned stiffly, still keeping my head down, not daring to look at Colin. "Is there anything else you need?" I asked. Colin's eyes were cold and piercing as he stared at me, like a hawk eyeing its prey. "What's your name?" he inquired. My heart tightened as I hesitated to answer. When suddenly I heard Victoria's voice from the corner. "Eunice?" "Victoria, dressed in an immaculate white gown, stepped forward from behind the group. Surprise and familiarity in her voice as she linked her arm with mine. Eunice, what are you doing here? Finally, someone couldn't hold back and spoke up. Victoria, do you know this waitress? Victoria smiled gently. This is my sister, Eunice Lawrence. Your sister? Why is your sister working here? Yeah, Victoria, I thought your family was quite well off. Well, it's a bit of a family embarrassment, Victoria said, looking somewhat uncomfortable. My sister's quite rebellious. Always spending money recklessly and hanging out with her dodgy friends. Mom gave her a bit of a telling off, and she stormed out to get this part-time job out of spite. When it came to tarnishing my reputation, Victoria never hesitated, lying effortlessly without even needing to think it through. Sure enough, as soon as she finished speaking, the others' looks towards me turned somewhat disdainful. Victoria's eyes gleamed with triumph. But outwardly she clutched my hand with feigned concern, her tone serious. Mom just said a few words in the heat of the moment, and you ran off like this. Do you know how worried we've been? You can't do this again, all right? I remained expressionless, almost wanting to laugh. Someone, feeling sorry for Victoria, spoke up on her behalf. That's right, young lady. You're grown up now, how can you be so inconsiderate? Your family cares about you so much. You should be grateful. Victoria, having such a sister must be such a worry for you. Victoria blushed, looking shyly towards Colin, who had remained silent in the main seat. She asked tentatively, Col, you called my sister earlier. Do you two know each other? Colin sat with his legs crossed, lounging lazily on the sofa. Eunice Lawrence? He said, looking at me with a playful raise of his eyebrow. As he slowly pronounced my name in his deep voice, I instinctively looked up. As our eyes met, he tossed the question back to me. You tell me, should we know each other? The curious gazes of everyone fell back on me. Victoria turned her head to look at me, her eyes full of questioning. Eunice, do you know Colin? Her tone remained gentle, but the smile at the corners of her mouth seemed slightly stiff. Her slender white hand gripped my arm tightly through the sleeve, her long nails almost digging into my flesh. I winced in pain and pulled my arm away from Victoria's grasp, answering softly. I don't know him. With that, I turned and quickly walked towards the exit. Behind me, Victoria's saccharine voice sounded again. I'm terribly sorry, my sister is a bit thoughtless. She didn't mean to spoil everyone's mood. Call. She hadn't finished speaking when she was suddenly interrupted. Who are you? Colin's expression was icy, his tone full of impatience. Call. Since when are you on a first-name basis with me? Victoria was stunned into silence, unable to speak for a moment. Someone tried to smooth things over. Come on, Colin, Victoria's sister didn't mean any harm. Don't be angry. Was she invited to my birthday party? Victoria's face turned ashen, standing helplessly on the spot. Her eyes reddened, as if she might burst into tears at any moment. Colin, I brought her along. Colin ignored this, his next words casual yet brooking no argument. Get out. In an instant, an awkward silence fell over the private room. See, Colin, we're all friends here. Yeah, Victoria's fancied you for years, we've all seen it. Colin let out a soft laugh. Anyone who says another word can leave with her. Immediately, everyone fell silent. Victoria's face turned deathly pale as she fled the room in panic. It was nearly 2 in the morning when my part-time shift ended. The top-floor private room was almost empty. After tidying up, I leaned against the wall, dozing off while waiting for the lift. A ding sounded as the lift doors opened. I opened my eyes and found myself staring directly at Colin Sinclair inside the lift. My drowsiness vanished instantly, and my mind jolted awake with shock. Hadn't he already left? Why was he back? Colin raised his hand, his long fingers thoughtfully holding the closing lift doors open. He stared at me intently, his gaze dark and profound. He didn't speak, just quietly waiting for my next move. I instinctively turned to run, but as soon as I took a step, I heard Colin's cold voice. Why are you running? Am I that frightening? Eunice Lawrence. I froze, reluctantly turning back. Get in. I still didn't move. The lift began to beep loudly, signaling it had been held too long. The sound was particularly jarring in the quiet of the night. I gave in, deflated, and walked into the lift. Even huddled in the corner, I still felt the space was a bit cramped. Which Eunice? Colin suddenly spoke, his voice no longer icy cold. The air was silent for a moment. After a while, I realized he was asking about my name. Eunice, as in useless. Colin looked at me but said nothing more. When the lift reached the underground car park, I realized I had been too nervous earlier and had forgotten to press my floor. I stepped out of the lift reluctantly, walking towards the emergency exit. Colin followed behind me and suddenly asked, "Can you drive?" I turned, somewhat puzzled. Drive for me? Why? I've been drinking. I can call a taxi for you. Colin raised an eyebrow slightly. £10,000. Colin was driving a jet black limited edition Bugatti sports car. The vehicle seemed to have been modified, and I spent several minutes trying to locate the start button. Colin sat in the passenger seat, resting his chin on his hand, enjoying my confusion with amusement. A hint of a smile played at the corner of his eye. Never driven one before? Not one this expensive. As soon as the words left my mouth, Colin suddenly grabbed my hand and pressed it directly onto the start button on the side. My heart pounded like a drum. Before I could react, he had already let go. Colin met my shocked gaze with a nonchalant expression. His smile deepened, his pupils shining like obsidian. I looked away, trying to ask calmly, "Address? Back to your place." "What?" I thought I must have misheard. Colin repeated, "Back to your place." "What about you?" "I'll drive back myself later." "Didn't you have a drink?" "Oh." Colin leaned in closer. I forgot, I didn't drink. Only then did I realize he had tricked me. I glared at him and turned to get out of the car. But Colin suddenly reached out and grabbed my sleeve. "I'll add another £10,000. I sat back down, fastened my seatbelt, and started the car. Throughout the journey, I remained silent. Colin leaned on his hand, unabashedly studying me with his intense gaze. My back stiffened, and I broke out in a cold sweat under his scrutiny. Yet, I kept my eyes fixed on the road ahead, pretending nothing was amiss. After a long moment, I heard Colin chuckle softly. "Am I that frightening, Eunice?" Perhaps it was my imagination, but when he called my name, Colin seemed to be gritting his teeth, as if suppressing some turbulent and dangerous emotions. I swallowed hard and shook my head in response. "Not frightening." "Then why are you so nervous? It's as if I'm going to eat you alive." As he spoke, his amused gaze grew even more unrestrained. I glanced at the rearview mirror, avoiding a direct response. Colin noticed my deliberate evasion but didn't seem annoyed. He adjusted his posture, leaning closer to me. "Has anyone ever told you? Your voice is very pleasant to hear. Like my girlfriend's." My hand on the steering wheel jerked violently, nearly swerving the car out of the lane. I quickly corrected course, suppressing my heart that was about to leap out of my throat, and forced a smile worse than crying. Is that so? Although my girlfriend and I were in an online relationship, we always got along well. But when I wanted to meet her, she not only refused but also blocked me and unilaterally broke up. What do you think is the reason for that? Colin stared at me intently, as if genuinely waiting for my answer. My voice trembled as I replied, I don't know." "You don't know?" Colin's smile faded, his tone becoming bitter again. "Well, that's truly unfortunate." As the car reached its destination, I suppressed the urge to bolt out the door and instead took out my phone to open my PayPal account. £20,000, please transfer," I said, keeping my head down and trying desperately to ignore the searing gaze. From above that felt like it could burn right through me. Colin seemed to let out a soft snort. His long, elegant fingers manipulated his phone for a moment. And the next second, I heard the notification sound of the £20,000 being deposited. I didn't dare waste a second. I opened the car door and jumped out. But suddenly, a hand caught my wrist. Colin's burning fingertips ghosted over the bone of my wrist, barely there but unmistakable. Why are you running off so quickly? His tone was distinctly displeased. You haven't even said goodbye to me yet. Although there was really no need for goodbyes between us anymore. I turned my head and muttered a goodbye just to escape his grasp. Colin gave me one last, long look before finally releasing my hand. I ran all the way to the stairwell before my suspended heart finally settled back into place. Just as I let out a long breath of relief, my phone screen suddenly lit up. It was a WhatsApp friend request from Colin. He seemed to have guessed I wouldn't accept. So he'd only added a pitiful note in the comments, "You little ingrate." I realized with a jolt that things weren't good. Colin, he'd probably recognized me already. When I returned home, the living room light was still on. Victoria was sitting on the sofa in her pristine white princess dress, quietly sobbing. Mom was beside her, comforting her in a soft voice, her face full of sympathy. As I entered, Mom's previously gentle expression cracked. "You cursed child! How dare you show your face here? Look what you've done to your sister." I stared at them expressionlessly. "It's got nothing to do with me." "Nothing to do with you?" Mom sprang to her feet. "You knew very well that the SK Club is only for the upper echelons of society. Yet you went and got a job there as a waitress. You've utterly disgraced the Lawrence family. And now your sister is being mocked by everyone in our circle. And that's not even the worst of it. Now you've even offended the Sinclair heir." Mom was beside herself with rage. Why did I ever give birth to such a jinx? "I'm warning you, Eunice Lawrence. If your sister's relationship with the Sinclair heir is ruined because of you, you'll never have a moment's peace for the rest of your life." I let out a cold laugh. "Mom, you must be joking. I've never had a moment's peace in the first half of my life either." As for Colin, wasn't it because Victoria showed up uninvited to his birthday party that she was thrown out? It was all a pipe dream to begin with. Now that her fantasies shattered, what? She wants to sling mud at me? Victoria glared at me hatefully. "Eunice, shut your mouth." I ignored her and turned back to Mom. "And as for disgracing the family? You didn't feel disgraced when you caused a scene at my school to force me to change my A-level choices. You didn't feel disgraced when you slapped me in front of my classmates and teachers. You didn't feel disgraced when you cut off my tuition and living expenses. So how is it that me earning my own living suddenly brings shame on you?" As soon as the words left my mouth, there was a sharp crack. Mom lunged at me, her face dark with fury, and slapped me hard across the face. "How dare you? Think you're all grown up now, do you? Talking back to me like that?" My head jerked to the side, my cheek stinging from the slap. Mom's gaze was venomous. "Pretty words. Don't think I don't know what you're really after." "Exactly. Stop acting all high and mighty." Victoria sneered, her lips curled in disdain. "You're only going to SK to snag a rich bloke, aren't you?" I numbly wiped away the tears that had fallen from the corner of my eye, feeling nothing but the urge to laugh at her words. "Are you more afraid that I'll catch a wealthy man, or that I'll catch Colin?" As expected, Victoria's face changed instantly at my words. "What are you implying? What exactly is your relationship with Colin?" Perhaps recalling the events at today's party, her eyes were filled with wariness. "Eunice Lawrence, I'm warning you. If you dare set your sights on Colin, I'll never let you off." I smiled even more broadly. "Too late. You wanted to know about my relationship with Colin, didn't you?" I leaned in close to her, enunciating each word. "He's my boyfriend." As anticipated, Victoria's shrill scream pierced the air. "Shut up! Shut your mouth!" Her face contorted with hatred as she lunged at me, howling. I sidestepped her attack, sticking out my foot to trip her. Victoria tumbled to the ground. Mom, finally snapping out of her shock, rushed forward to help her up. "Eunice! Have you no shame? Stealing your own sister's man. What sin did I commit to give birth to such an ungrateful wretch? You've ruined this family." I stood motionless, my face expressionless as I listened to Mom's abuse. I saw the undisguised disgust and hatred in her eyes as she looked at me, and suddenly felt that all of this was utterly pointless. Stop deceiving yourself. The one who ruined this family was never me. You should know that better than anyone, shouldn't you? As I stepped out, the cold night air numbed my fingertips. Standing in the dimly lit hallway, I stared at my phone, which had automatically shut down due to low battery. Suddenly, I felt a bit lost. A faint scent of tobacco tickled my nose. Instinctively, I looked up and saw that tall figure not far away. It was Colin. He hadn't left. Colin was leaning against his car, bathed in the warm yellow glow of the streetlights. He lit a cigarette but didn't smoke it, just letting it burn slowly between his fingers. In that moment of distraction, Colin had already stubbed out the cigarette and was walking towards me. He stopped in front of me, his tall frame towering over me. "Who hit you?" Colin asked, his eyes cold as he stared at my slightly swollen cheek. It was strange. The moment he asked that question, I felt an urge to cry. Realizing my loss of composure, I tried to lower my head in embarrassment, but Colin cupped my face in his hands. His brow furrowed with concern as he gently wiped away the tears that had escaped from the corners of my eyes. "Does it hurt badly?" I cried even harder. Tears fell in large drops, and Colin frantically tried to wipe them away. I took a deep breath and slowly leaned against his shoulder. "Colin, I'm so tired," I whispered. "Please, take me away from here." Colin took me back to an apartment in the city center. The flat showed little sign of habitation, but all the essentials were there. Standing in the bedroom, I noticed several luxury brand shopping bags by the bed, containing women's clothing. The price tags were still attached, suggesting they had just been delivered. "Are you satisfied?" Colin leaned against the doorframe, his gaze fixed on me. "Thank you. I'll only be staying temporarily. Once I find a suitable place, I'll move out," I replied. Colin frowned. "You don't like it here?" "It's not that." I hesitated. "I just don't want to owe you too much." "Oh." Colin raised an eyebrow, his eyes gleaming with interest. "Speaking of which," he straightened up and moved closer, lowering his voice. "Don't you owe me an explanation most of all?" I retreated 2 steps, my calves hitting the edge of the bed. What explanation? You were the one who leaned into my arms earlier. What, trying to pretend it didn't happen now? I tried to appear calm. "I was just a bit emotional at the time." "Oh. Is that so?" Colin continued to advance. With nowhere left to go, I sat down on the bed. Little liar. I looked up. Colin was staring down at me, his eyes dark and intense in the dim light. "Remember what I said?" "What?" Colin bent down, placing his hands on either side of me, trapping me at the edge of the bed. His hot breath tickled my neck. "I said, never let me catch you, baby." I stood there, stunned into silence. Colin changed his position. He knelt on one knee in front of me, his arms still encircling me, calmly observing the changes in my expression. Suddenly, I felt something cool on my face. Colin had produced an ice pack from somewhere and began to soothe the swelling on my cheek. "When I was waiting outside your flat," he said, I kept thinking about how to punish you. His movements were gentle, the cool sensation alleviating the stinging pain. But seeing you shivering alone in the cold wind, I suddenly felt my heart soften. "So, still not ready to admit it? My girlfriend?" I finally gave up resisting, but couldn't help being curious. I only said one word. "How did you know it was me?" My hearing has always been excellent. Besides, it only took 3 minutes to find your information. "So what do you want now? Will you agree to whatever I want?" "Of course not." Seeing my guarded expression, Colin laughed. "How stingy." I bit my lip nervously, then heard Colin continue. "Add me back on WhatsApp, and I want all your other contact details too. And..." He paused. No more talk of breaking up. His expression was serious, his gaze carrying a hint of undisguised possessiveness. "So, we're still boyfriend and girlfriend? What else?" Colin raised an eyebrow. "I don't make a habit of meddling in strangers' affairs. But we were just in an online relationship before." Colin's eyes narrowed, his tone becoming dangerous. Eunice, do you really think I was just playing house with you? He was angry again. I didn't dare say more, quickly waving my hands. All right, no breaking up then. A warmth enveloped my wrist as Colin suddenly reached out to grab it. His eyes were dark and intense, his voice seductively soft as he spoke. But I'm very angry right now. You need to comfort me, baby. I felt my head spinning. Although we had exchanged some sweet nothings before, that was over the internet. Now, with him right in front of me, I wished I could disappear into thin air. I raised my hand and awkwardly ruffled Colin's hair. So, don't be angry anymore. Colin was momentarily stunned, then lowered his head, chuckling so hard his shoulders shook. Babe, are you trying to soothe a puppy? Well, what do you want me to do then? Kiss me. His eyes sparkled, as if fireworks were exploding in their depths. Give me a kiss, and I won't be upset anymore. I steadied myself, took a deep breath, and cupped his face with both hands. I planted a quick peck on the corner of his lips. Colin was completely taken aback. He had only meant to tease her a bit. He couldn't help but smile, feeling all his frustration instantly melt away. Are you satisfied now? MHM. Colin's eyes crinkled as he grinned. Very satisfied, baby. My cheeks burned. Don't call me baby. All right, babe. Life continued as usual, with my days revolving around university and part-time work. The only difference now was Colin's presence. During my lectures, he would sit beside me, iPad in hand, alternating his gaze between me and his financial reports. Come mealtime, I'd drag him to the university canteen. I had assumed that a privileged young man like him would turn his nose up at such simple fare. But to my surprise, Colin seemed to relish every bite. That is, until I discovered he had secretly topped up my meal card with £10,000. This is a meal card, not a bank account. Why on earth did you add so much? Is it really that much? £10,000 is the card's limit, not mine. No matter how late I worked at my part-time job, Colin would always be there waiting for me. He understood my determination, so he never uttered nonsense like, "You don't need to work so hard, just rely on me from now on." Instead, he would silently transfer money into my account. Naturally, I didn't refuse. While my life was peaceful, some people were getting quite worked up. My mom kept sending messages, calling me ungrateful and demanding I come home immediately. If you don't come back soon, I'll make a scene at your university. And let all your classmates and professors see what you're really like. I chuckled and replied, okay. This made my mom even more furious, and she sent a barrage of insulting messages. Eventually, she tired of the abuse and realized her threats weren't working. That's when she decided to go for broke. Since you don't want to acknowledge me as your mother anymore, I'll grant your wish. Pay me back all the money I've spent raising you, and don't ever come back. I'll pretend I never had a daughter like you. Finally, some good news. Without delay, I went back to the Lawrence family home that Saturday. As soon as I entered, I started packing my belongings. Surprisingly, my mom and Victoria sat on the sofa without interfering, though their gazes towards me were somewhat venomous. Once everything was packed, I sat down across from my mom with my suitcase and asked, "How much do you want?" £1,000,000. I scoffed, "You've got some nerve asking for that much. Since childhood, I've worn Victoria's hand-me-downs, played with her discarded toys, and even my meals were your leftovers. I paid for university with my own scholarships, and earned every penny for my living expenses. How on earth did you come up with this figure of £1,000,000? My mom slammed her hand on the table. I gave birth to you. I gave you life. And along with it, 20 years of pain and torment, isn't that right? My mom fell silent, her face dark with anger. Victoria gave my mom a strange look, and suddenly, her demeanor changed. Fine, then $500,000. Not a penny less. All right, but I want my name removed from the family records. My mom nodded in agreement. Something felt off, and an uneasy feeling urged me to leave quickly. But as I stood up, the room began to spin. Just before I lost consciousness, I saw Victoria's face contorted into a vicious grin. Eunice, you ruined my life. I'll make you wish you were dead. When I opened my eyes again, the door was locked. A strange man was standing by the bed. I shook my dizzy head and asked, "Who are you?" The man's face broke into a slightly greasy smile. "Your mom should have mentioned me. She was planning to set us up on a blind date." I remembered now. He was the divorced man 10 years older than me. My limbs felt weak, and my vision was gradually blurring. "What are you doing in my room?" I pinched my thigh, trying hard to stay awake. The greasy man rubbed his hands as he approached me. "You're even prettier in person than in your photos. I really like you. Why don't we just get on with it today? I promise I'll treat you well." "Did my mom let you in?" The man tacitly agreed. "Your mom said you're quite shy, but don't worry. I'm a man, I'll take the initiative." As he spoke, he reached out to pull at my clothes. "You know this is a crime, right?" The greasy man's face darkened. "What crime?" "I've already given your mom the bride price. £500,000. You're mine now, so you should do as I say." I suddenly laughed out loud. "What are you laughing at?" I adjusted my position and asked, "Are you squeamish about blood?" The greasy man looked confused, then saw me pull out a craft knife from under my pillow. He sneered, "In your current state, you still want to resist? I suggest you save your strength." I expressionlessly slid out the blade. "Oh, by the way, when you call 999 later, please be quick about it. I don't actually want to die." With that, I used my last ounce of strength to aim the blade at my wrist. The cold gradually invaded my body. I stared blankly at the ceiling, sinking into darkness amidst a chorus of screams. The pungent smell of antiseptic filled my nostrils. I opened my eyes to a blinding whiteness. A sharp pain shot through my wrist. I turned my head to see Colin holding my hand, his head resting on the edge of the hospital bed. As if sensing my gaze, he suddenly looked up. His eyes rimmed red with dark circles beneath. Colin's fingers trembled slightly as he gently caressed my face, as if confirming I had truly awakened. "Does it hurt?" he asked softly. "Yes," I replied, feeling a lump in my throat. "Colin, it really hurts." Colin panicked. He carefully pulled me into his arms, his hands slowly rubbing my back. "It's all right now." "It's all over," he whispered. "From now on, no one will ever hurt you again." The doctor came to examine me and advised plenty of rest. As Colin helped me drink water and eat, I heard commotion outside the room. I was puzzled, but Colin shook his head and pulled the blanket over me. "Don't worry about it. Just get some sleep." On the third day of my hospital stay, while Colin accompanied me for a short walk downstairs, I finally saw him. It was my father. He was being held back by security guards about 10 meters away, shouting my name. Colin looked down at me, asking, "Do you want to see him?" I nodded. "This situation needs to be resolved." My father looked disheveled, with an unkempt beard and a shirt he hadn't changed in days. His expression was one of utter exhaustion. When he looked at me, his face broke into a sycophantic smile. "Eunice, dear, why didn't you tell your old man you're dating the Sinclair heir?" I stared at him without saying a word. He wrung his hands nervously and awkwardly changed the subject. "Your mother is truly dreadful. To think she'd push her own daughter to such extremes. If I'd known she'd treat you like this, I would never have left you with that viper of a woman. She's corrupted your sister too, and now they've both been arrested. But they deserve it, let them reflect on their actions behind bars." I was losing patience. "Get to the point. Eunice, love, I know you've suffered a great deal these past years. Once you're better, I'll divorce your mother. You can come home with me, and I promise I'll make it up to you." He paused for a moment. "It's just that, the company's facing some difficulties right now. I know young Mr. Sinclair is acting out of anger on your behalf, but we're still family after all. Could you perhaps put in a good word for me? Ask him to show some mercy and spare the Lawrence family?" I smiled coldly. "No." My father was stunned. "Who do you think all those years of torment were for?" "It was for you, father." I stared icily at the hypocrite before me. As a husband, you betrayed your wife. As a father, you never took responsibility for your children for a single day. You don't truly feel you've wronged me, nor do you genuinely want to make amends. You're just shedding crocodile tears, trying to manipulate and use me with that pitiful blood relation. I stood up, watching my father's face grow ashen. Haven't I told you before? In this family, it's not my mother I hate the most. It's you. On the day of my discharge, I went to the police station alone. My mother and Victoria had spent a few days in custody, looking haggard and worn. During the mediation process with the officer, I stated my demands. I'm willing to drop the charges, but I need Ms. Mary Wilson and Ms. Victoria Lawrence to personally acknowledge their actions towards me and apologize. I will record this as evidence and reserve the right to press charges in the future. As for the man who nearly assaulted me, I won't accept any settlement. By the time everything was settled, night had fallen. As I left the police station with the confession video, my mother suddenly called out to me. I never imagined things would end up like this. She said, her eyes lifeless. You must hate me, don't you? For a long time, during your failed life, I felt sorry for you and pitied you, I replied. I even wondered if your pain and suffering were truly my fault. I thought about ending it all, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Slowly, I realized that hating you was the only way I could go on living. You say you gave me life. I pointed to my bandaged wrist. Now, I've given that life back to you. From this day forward, we have no connection. With that, I turned to leave. As I did, I thought I heard a whisper, barely audible. I'm sorry. I didn't take it in. Because I had no intention of forgiving. As I opened the door to our flat, I was immediately enveloped in a warm embrace. Colin's strong arms wrapped around me, his forehead gently resting on the top of my head. Welcome home, baby, he murmured. I've got a surprise for you. Just as he finished speaking, a dazzling display of fireworks erupted in the night sky. As if celebrating my new beginning. My eyes welled up with tears, and I reached out to hug him back. Colin, make a wish, I said softly. He raised an eyebrow, looking slightly surprised. Me? I nodded. On your birthday, because of my arrival, you didn't get a chance to make a wish. Colin chuckled, his deep eyes clearly reflecting my image. He cupped my face in his hands and placed a gentle kiss on my forehead. Then I wish for many more years of happiness with you, he said tenderly. I saw Victoria again when she came to the school to arrange her leave of absence. My father, in his desperate attempt to secure investment, had forced her to marry Charles Warrington, a businessman in his 50s. Yet even this didn't help him overcome his financial crisis. 3 months later, the Lawrence family declared bankruptcy. Their house and car were all auctioned off. My father's mistress absconded with what little money he had left, fleeing abroad. I heard my mom had fallen seriously ill. After being discharged from the hospital, she lived alone in a dilapidated house in the Old Town district. I once saw her at a recycling center outside the school. She was dragging a large pile of recyclables. When she spotted me from afar, her eyes darted away nervously. A classmate asked curiously, Eunice, who's that? She keeps sneaking glances at you. I shook my head and replied, I don't know her. Later, I was accepted into the postgraduate program at the university. I had always dreamed of attending, and was chosen to give a speech as the new student representative. Colin sat in the audience, holding a bouquet of flowers as he watched me. As the camera flashes illuminated me on stage, I smiled and introduced myself. Hello everyone, I'm Eunice Lawrence. Eunice as in Eunice.